bit early, so I'll wait for a couple of minutes. So I think all the important people have come in now. So much is coming in. I hope they didn't hear that. So please take your seats. And before we do a little bit of guided meditation, I wanted to say a little bit more detail about how you meditate. People with the questions last night, there may have been some left over from the first night, about they've never meditated before, and can you please let us know on just what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to meditate? And sure, it's the easiest way just to sit there and relax and let go. However, for most people, that's a difficult thing to do because they've never done it before. So we have to have another little bits and pieces, little skillful means to try and encourage people how to let go. And that's why they have something like Anapanasati, but even though I'm now going to talk about stages of meditation, as soon as I talk about stages of meditation, so we do first, and then number 2, then you proceed on to number 3, and then you, once you've done number 3, then you go on to number 4. People love that stuff. But unfortunately, that it can cause a lot of tension. So I do this with some reluctance. But afterwards, after teaching you some little stages of meditation, just how one proceeds from one to another, and especially using a simile, one of my favorite similes of the thousand-petal lotus. But first of all, in Anapanasati, just the teachings which many of you, I hope, would have come across, read or heard from other venerables or from other teachers, that you see that you start off finding a nice quiet place, comfortable place, and then you establish mindfulness as a priority. Now, sometimes people say that means putting mindfulness in front of your nose. It doesn't mean in front of your nose. That's a priority. It means putting it number one in the list before you do anything else. Sometimes they translate it as in front of you, and that's where people think, oh, in front of me, where am I? And people think, I'm in my head. So if you're in your head, it must be in here somewhere. Oh, it must be my nose. But it's not your nose. Because what happened to me in my journey of meditation, I think I mentioned earlier, my father had asthma. So I didn't have asthma myself, but still subject to allergies. So during the summertime, in hay fever season, my nose was really stuffed up. And so it's very difficult to meditate just by watching my nose. I once came very, very, very close to deep meditation, but I sneezed. I blew it. Okay, some of you are awake and can laugh. But not only that, I just could not breathe. There's no air going in or out. And I thought, I can't meditate. What should I do now? And then later on, when he went to these retreats, he said, you can actually watch your tummy go up and down, your belly. And that was also very difficult. As you would know if I taught this in the evening, to watch your belly, and just a tiny little bit from the belly is your stomach, which is empty and which is hungry. So after a while, I wasn't watching the rise and fall of my belly, I was watching the emptiness of my stomach. I know that emptiness is a good meditation object, but when you're very young and hungry, it's not that helpful. So that never worked. But thank you for giving me that problem, because without that problem, I probably would never have actually realized. You don't have to watch the breath at the tip of the nose. You don't have to watch the breath at your belly. Even though my nose was stuffed and my belly was hungry, still I was breathing. So these days, it's from that you develop this very easy method. You ask yourself, am I breathing in or am I breathing out? Right now, which one is it? You don't have to watch at the tip of the nose. You know if you're breathing in. You know if you're breathing out. It's simple. And that's all you actually watch in breath meditation. You know your breath's moving in or your breath's moving out. Same way when you're doing walking meditation. You know your right foot is moving or your left foot is moving. And no one has ever asked me, well, how do I know which foot is moving? Of course you know, it's natural. It's the same, your breath. Which one is going in, if it's going in or going out. Now the problem is, if you start watching your breath from the very beginning, you'll find it won't last very long, you'll wander off somewhere. And the reason is because you haven't been prepared. You haven't calmed your mind down yet. Which is why to create mindfulness as a number one priority, you do that even before you start watching the breath. And I spend a couple of days asking you just to relax and be mindful. That's all. People say, well, what are we supposed to do? Just relax and be mindful. Be aware. Calm down. Don't talk so much. And just do things slowly. And you find, because there's nothing else to watch, you start to become more aware of bodily feelings, the lovely feeling of your bed, the feeling of your pillow, the feeling of your breakfast as you eat it. Did you enjoy your breakfast this morning? I thought so. So that's why we have something called breakfast meditation and lunch meditation. And lunch meditation is that whatever lunch you're going to have today, number one, in silence, so you can really pick up the flavors. And as you use, say, chopsticks, or you use a spoon or a fork, suppose you use, chopsticks. You pick up something and you put it into your mouth. And you put all the attention on the flavors of whatever you put into your mouth. And you really taste it or chew it and then swallow it. And only then put the next thing on your chopstick. However, what most people do is they've got one morsel in the mouth. There's one on the chopstick waiting patiently, and there's another thing in there which you're messing around with the food. You're usually about 3 or 4 morsels in front of yourself. So don't do that. Just one morsel at a time. Pick it up, put it in, and enjoy every part of it. And then the next one. You know, many people have digestive problems. One of the reasons is because they never taste their food. They're busy eating and talking to someone sitting next to them, or just thinking about the meaning of life, or instead of just eating. And I always tell people, you know, if you're going out with your boyfriend, girlfriend, any friend, to a very expensive restaurant, where you have to pay lots of money, it's actually very high quality food. So for goodness sake, eat in silence. So you can get all the tastes, you know, get the value for money of, you know, everything you paid for. And if your husband or wife starts to interrupt, say, "Shut up, darling, we paid a lot of money for this food. I'm eating it mindfully." If you want to have a conversation with somebody, take them to McDonald's or some fast food mess or something. But if it's really high quality food, you actually taste it. And because you're tasting, enjoying the food, taking more time over it, it does also mean that more saliva, more bile, whatever else, all those other little things which come out from your stomach to digest the food, more of it comes out, which means you've got much better digestion. So, eat slowly, eat mindfully, eat enjoyably, every bit. Don't rush the food. Everything else in this retreat can be really boring, but the food meditation, oh yeah, I can get into this. And you only do it twice a day. So, you know, linger. Sometimes people do walking meditation for an hour, sometimes sitting meditation for 2 hours. So maybe eating meditation for an hour and a half. No, you've got to come out afterwards. But anyway, what this is doing is you're getting in touch with your physical feelings, you're being here in this moment, and you're not talking to yourself. It's not just not talking to others, not talking to yourself, being silent. And of course, people often ask, well, why be silent? Why can't we talk? We're friends together. Why can't we discuss Dhamma when we're having a meal? And one of the reasons is because if you're talking, you're not tasting. If you're thinking, you're not actually enjoying. You're giving a commentary to what's happening rather than seeing things live. And the story which you've heard so many times, but it's the very best. Lao Tzu going on a walk with his disciple in the evening, had to have noble silence, real silence. No one was allowed to talk. Only one disciple would go with the master every evening. And so they came to this ridge of the mountains where there's a gorgeous sunset. And even though the disciple was supposed to be quiet, he forgot the rule because the sunset was just so overwhelmingly beautiful. And he burst out, "Wow, look at that sunset. I've never seen such a beautiful sunset like that before." He'd broken the rules and spoken. To which the master turned round and went back to the temple. Because the master kept the rules, imagine what had happened. Said, "You broke the rule." Said, "But you have as well." Well, we both broke rules, both as bad as each other. But this particular time, the master turned around, was silent. And when he got back to the temple, he told all of his disciples, "That young man can never go with me on a walk ever again." wow, that was too tough. Come on, be compassionate. Give him a break. You know, why is it so bad that you talk, even just only a couple of sentences? And Lao Tzu said, when my disciple said, what a beautiful sunset, he was not watching the sunset anymore. He was only watching the words. And I thought that was a wonderful simile. You're either watching the thing in itself, the action, the experience, or you're watching the commentary to it. And the commentary is always a little bit different than the actual experience itself, which is one of the reasons why you get more enjoyment in life. You get more reality when you stop giving a commentary and you just are there, you're just listening, you're just being, you're just seeing, you're just feeling, instead of saying anything about it. Which is one of the reasons why that in the meditation, you do the eating meditation, sleeping meditation, washing meditation, the showering meditation, whatever meditation you're doing, just feel it, listen to it, don't give a commentary. And then you find you're much more alive, you're much here. Your commentaries are just old stuff, old ideas. But when you're actually right here just being, you'll find it's much more alive. So, little by little, we lessen our thinking, we stay more in our present moment, life where it actually happens. And I also mentioned that, the past, whatever you think happened, all that stuff which somebody did to you, why they did that, I don't know, but they've done it, and just keep bringing it up. Does that help anybody? I know that some people say, oh, but you learn from the past. Those who ignore the teaching or the lessons of history are condemned to repeat those mistakes. That is Gomayang. You learn from the present, this moment right now, much more than you ever learned from the past. This is where the action is. This is where life is. This is where wisdom, enlightenment is. This is where you find the treasure. Because old monks don't lie. So that's why that we learn how to let go of the past and future. We come into a degree of silence before we even start watching the breath. Once people do that, anything to get you in the present moment, just anything to try and stop the mind sort of thinking too much, and then you're in the present moment. But, sometimes your mind does think so much and it's so hard to stop it. And one of those stories from my life, when I was in this monastery in the north of Thailand, I've already mentioned it twice, where there was the birds were lining up to get their water bath, and where I was so bored at one time I started reading the only English book which was anywhere near, which was the pharmacopoeia of the different medications this particular organisation was selling. So that's the only English book I had there. It was left by a previous monk. But in that monastery, after a while, I was really trying to meditate, really putting effort in, meditating day and night in a beautiful cave, where a very deep cave up in the mountains. I'm staying most of the day there and coming out in the evening. But it got to the point I started getting very restless. The thoughts started coming into my mind. And being a young monk, being still very stupid, I tried to control my mind and keep those thoughts out. I tried really, really hard to keep them out. The more I tried to expel them, the more they came in. It was a battle. It was a fight. And I was losing. Losing big time. I was not peaceful. I was not happy. And all these thoughts, first of all, the ordinary thoughts came in. And then the stupid thoughts. And then the very embarrassing, shameful thoughts. I was there, 5 years I'd been a monk, and I started thinking, hey, I wonder if that girl's still available. No, I can't do things like that. I'm a monk. We had such a wonderful time. No, I can't do that. You know, one of my scariest moments when I was, from my past, when I was a student at Cambridge, I think the last year, you know, many of my friends were getting hitched up for life sentences, the whole lot of them. And at one of my friends' marriage, after the marriage, you know, when you got the reception, and you know, the guys were talking with each other, and the conversation came up to which one of us is going to be next. Who's the next one to get married? And sort of one person pointed to one of my friends and said, Jeff, he'll probably get married next. And then we all decided, no one to marry him. You know what boys are like. And so the next one they pointed was me. They said, oh, my lay name was Peter. So, oh, Peter, he would get married next. And they all looked at me and said, nah, no one would marry him. But as it happened, there was a girl standing right next to me. And she whispered into my ear, I would. Oh, that even now sends shivers down my spine. One of the scariest moments. I didn't want to marry her, but she obviously wanted to marry me, and so for the rest of the day I kept a long distance from her. Poor girl, but anyway. But in that cave, or in that monastery, I thought, well, you know, she did. No, stop it, Ajahn Brahm, I'm a monk. And every time I try to push out those thoughts, I love being a monk. I like being a monk. I like my meditation. Don't want to do anything else, ever. Even the first days when I ordained in Watsaket, a novice monk, this is, you know, accurate. After I ordained as a summoner, a novice monk, first of all, for the next 3 or 4 days I would have nightmares. I'd wake up in the middle of the night sweating, very anxious. And my nightmare was that I was a layperson, that I hadn't ordained. That was my fear. And I opened my eyes and I saw my robes next to my bed on the floor. I thought, I'm a monk, I'm in brown, I've made it. And then I closed my eyes and had a really nice, peaceful night's sleep. And that reoccurred for about 3 or 4 or 5 times in a row. And that told me just how much I wanted to be a monk, and how it really suited me. Because this was nothing you could fake. This was some very deep psychology embedded in me to say, you know, oh please, I don't want to be a layperson. And then I saw, my robes are there. Oh yes. So I really did always want to be a monk. Never sort of wavered at all. And so there I was having all these thoughts coming in. And I'm pushing them out. And just come watch your breath. And the more I try to watch my breath, the more these thoughts start coming in, breaking down all of my barriers, and all these romantic, sexy fantasies came in. Look, that's not me, I don't want to think like that, but they kept on coming in, stronger and stronger and stronger. It was a battle, and I was losing it. So it was just so frustrating, fighting your thoughts. So there was no person to talk to. I had 5 years as a monk, I was on my own, and I went to the Buddha statue in the hall, and I bowed and said, help. And I got an insight, and the insight was to do a deal. That's the only thing I could think of. That for 23 hours of the day, I'll be a good monk, keeping my precepts inside and outside, making sure that I was watching the breath, or doing loving kindness, or chanting. So, you know, be a good monk. But if my mind really wanted to think about those naughty things, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., anything goes. 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. every afternoon would be my sexy time. Only thinking, nothing else. So, that's what I imagined. I thought that would work. If you want to do that, give you 1 hour a day. Okay, no more, then you behave. So, it didn't work the way I expected it, but the reason I tell this story, because wow, this really taught me a lot. It was still a battle throughout the day, fighting, getting a sort of a fantasy coming up, pushing it away, watching the breath, and then another one came up. And so by the time it got to 3 o'clock, I was really tired, which is why I leant against the wall of the hut, put my feet out and said, okay, I'm not going to fight you anymore. Mind whatever thought would come up at all. The thoughts I'd be so embarrassed to tell anybody about, and if Ajahn Chah was around, I'd run away because he could read my mind and I'd be more embarrassed. But you can come. That was the deal. And for the next 1 hour, no exaggeration, I watched every thought without missing, every breath without missing one. It was so easy. Just breathing in, breathing out. So peaceful, so easy. And I thought, what is going on? When I tried to train my mind, it wouldn't behave. But when I let it be, it was so peaceful and followed every breath. Now you can understand the simile of the anger-eating monster. Get out of here, you don't belong. You make peace with it and it disappears. You fight your mind and you make it more angry and upset, and your mind becomes more uncontrollable. Or just like that story of the woman, there's a couple of stories here. The woman who her son was only 5 or 6 years of age and got really fed up with his mum. Right, mum, I'm leaving home. I don't love you anymore, mum. Threw a tantrum. And I know some mothers have thought of doing this, but none have had the guts to try it. You want to leave home? Yeah, mum, I don't love you anymore. You're too strict. Okay, darling, you can leave. I'll help you pack. So the two of them went into the kid's bedroom, packed his little travel bag with all the important necessities of life, like the Spider-Man costume, teddy bear, and anything else the kid wanted. And having put everything in the little bag, the next thing Mummy said, oh, it's a long journey in life, I better make you your favourite sandwich. So I made the kid's favourite sandwich, even though it was not lunchtime yet, and put it in a brown paper bag, and then waved the kid off at the door. Bye-bye, darling, have a wonderful life. Don't forget to keep in touch every now and again. And so the 5-6-year-old went off into life, left home for the first time, carrying a little suitcase in a brown paper bag. And off he went, opened up the little garden gate, turned left and went down the road into his life. For about 1 minute before he felt homesick, turned around, came through the garden gate. Mum hadn't moved, from the front door. Hugged, welcome home, darling. That was brilliant emotional intelligence. If she'd have fought with the son, punished him, locked him in his room, that wouldn't have solved the problem. If you want to leave, off you go. Just make sure you're right. But adding a bit of love and kindness. What do you want? What do you want for your lunch? And doing that meant the child didn't want to leave home after all. Just like the thinking mind. If you're kind to your mind doesn't want to leave you. It likes you. It wants to stay with you. So that's actually when you're kind to your mind. That's when you don't wander off. And the other time was right in front of Wat Nana Cha after 2 or 3 years. In the hot season, the farmers would take the water buffalo out to graze. And the water buffalo, they're just so timid, being so peaceful animals. Sometimes the kids can actually, they're supposed to be looking after those animals, but they can fall asleep on the animal's back because the animal grazes for hours. Except if the water buffalo does get frightened, then they get very dangerous. I don't know what they get frightened for, but it looked like the water buffalo always got frightened of monks, forest monks. I think it was because of the robes, that they had bad eyesight and they thought the monks probably were tigers. Yeah, because similar colour. So, because of that, so we always used to be very careful, because if the water buffalo's head went up, that was a sign it's about to charge. So we'd have to be very careful. And I also remember once, a couple of times being charged by a water buffalo. But one of the times it was on arms round with Ajahn. And the water buffalo chased both of us. And so Ajahn went one way, I went another way, and afterwards a big mistake, because Ajahn had much better karma than I did, so the water buffalo started following me. So I had to hide behind a tree to escape it. The water buffalo eventually calmed down. But in this case, it was the owner was taking the water buffalo out to graze, and they just used a little rope to actually not string more like it, to take the water buffalo out to graze. The water buffalo started lifting its head. Something had scared it, and the farmer tried to hold the water buffalo back, and the water buffalo took off with the man's finger. The rope had wound around his finger and pulled it off. Just the top of it, not the whole of it. And so remember this, because the man came he wasn't in pain because of the shock, first of all. You don't feel much pain when the first shock. But he had this little bone sticking up and all the flesh gone and blood all over him. And took him straight to hospital, fixed him up. He was fine. He was actually easy to scratch with a little bit of bone coming out. I don't know what, but anyway, he survived, no trouble at all. But often use that similarly. What is stronger, a water buffalo or a Thai farmer? A water buffalo is always stronger. So, if you have tried to restrain a water buffalo, it's a waste of time. Let it go. Otherwise, you lose a finger. And it doesn't go that far, maybe 200 meters at most, and then it stops. So the farmer just needs to walk after it slowly, and then get the string, and then you can pull it back to the right place, because the water buffalo is not spooked anymore, not afraid. That's just like your mind. If it gets a bit crazy, just let it go. It won't go that far, and then you can put it back again. However, sometimes people say, oh, they tried that, and the water buffalo keeps going on and on and on a long time. And it's not you're letting it go. You're actually enjoying the mind wandering. You're actually indulging in it. You say, come on, wander a bit more. This is interesting. So to understand what is happening there, it is that we get involved and entangled in our thoughts and fantasies. And where these similes come from is all the travels which I have been doing. And it really stunned me the first time when I was transiting in Changi Airport. And it's in Terminal 3, because all the flights in Australia come in Terminal 3. And as I was going from one section to another section, in the middle of Terminal 3, there's this big sports lounge. There's this huge set of TVs where they play soccer. All the time, some soccer match on. And I saw these people, they're waiting for their flights, but they're sitting down there. And suddenly they jump up and say, that's a penalty, ref, a penalty. And they're shouting at the screen. And number one, it doesn't matter how hard you shout from Singapore, they cannot hear it in Manchester. And number two, it's a replay. The match finished yesterday. Why do people get entangled in it? Because the psychology is, if you're watching that, soon just the whole experience becomes like you're right there, just in Old Trafford, just in the stands, watching the game happen. That's how you think at the time. That's why you get really involved. And the same with the movies. Sometimes if you go see a movie and it's really scary and somebody is creeping up, some monster is creeping up on you, and shout out, behind you, look out! I've seen people do this when I used to go to movies. They're in the movie, they're sitting, and they actually shout out. It's only a movie! It's not real. But that's what movies, why people really get into them. Because it's like you're right there in the action. the world is actually going to end. And it's only Superman. People get emotionally entangled in movies. It's like they're there, like it's real, and you're standing there, just watching it all happen. You're part of the movie. That is why it goes on and on and on, your emotional entanglement. But if ever you watch a movie and you actually stand back and just watch, like with a bit of detachment, like I once did on a flight, and they had the movie Armageddon. I didn't have any, because the screen came right down in front of me, so I couldn't avoid it. I didn't have any headphones, and that was a brilliant part. Don't take the headphones. Just watch a movie silently. Oh, it's so entertaining. It's like a comedy. Because the headphones, the soundtrack gets you all emotionally involved, the music changes and bang. But this particular time, the spacecraft had landed on this meteor or something, heading for CERN, for Earth. It was going to destroy civilization as we know it. Of course it didn't. But just always at the last moment, the very, 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 very last moment, they just managed to save the world. And it's always Americans who do it. Never any Malaysians or Australians. So anyway, but anyway, there we are. The hero, I forget who the hero was, in one of the spacecraft, and something went wrong with the spacecraft, and it smashed into the comet. Really great big smash, crash, bang, and there were sparks and flames, and it rolled, and more flames and explosions and sparks all over the place, and then it was almost going to come to a stop, and it fell over the cliff. And more smashes and crashes and explosions and sparks. It went on for about 4 or 5 minutes. I mean, if that happened to you in a car, you know, the first second you'd be dead, you'd be gone. But then it went quiet. And then the hero, his hand came up. And I just noticed that his hand, there was no soot marks, there was no scratches, there was no blood. His hand was perfectly manicured. And as his head came up, his hairstyle was also perfect. No beads of sweat, no soot. He survived. And I looked at the people next to me, they oh, such a relief. And they looked at me and I was laughing my head off. It was so funny. If you don't get sucked into it, you know exactly what's going to happen. But people don't. They want the excitement. They want the fantasy. They get entangled into it. And that is why many of the fantasies, the thoughts, go on and on and on and on and on. So if you do ever want to stop the fantasies and thoughts inside and get some silence and meditate instead, you just stand back a little bit and watch this silly dream, fantasy. Watch it from a distance. So what am I wasting my time with that for? Just wasting time, that's all it really is. And if you really get stuck in those dreams and fantasies, just fast forward. That's what I used to do. Then what? Then what? Then what? Then what? Then I save the world. Then what? You save the world. There's always lots of meanness, then you've got to save it again. Then what? Then what? And what happens is you keep going forward, 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 and you realize just what a waste of time that was. So instead, stand back, have a bit of skepticism to your thinking processes, to your thoughts, and put more trust in silence. When you get very quiet and silent, you can actually feel it's incredibly therapeutic. You are recharging. You know, it's holy. no matter what religion you are, or no religion at all, just silence and peace is a wonderful place to stay for a few minutes, if not longer. So once you value silence, once you respect the silent mind, it's much easier to stay there. But when you're afraid of silence, then there's no end of thoughts and fantasies and dreams to actually fill the mind up with. And most of those dreams and fantasies, or a lot of them, become negative. It's much easier to find fault, you to get energized when you're angry, finding fault, finding things wrong. But unfortunately that just leads to lots and lots of negativity in your non-meditating life. But so instead, just be silent and enjoy that beautiful peace. You do get energized. So, in the meditation, you start off sitting comfortably, relaxing your body, then just being in the present moment. I'm going to give the simile of the shopping bags when we do some meditation in a few moments. And then you just keep as silent as possible. You don't need to be perfectly silent. Just you really relax, mindfully enough, and then you can start watching your breathing. Doesn't matter where you watch your breath. Just breathing in, breathing out. It's boring, isn't it, at first? Which is one of the reasons why some people can count the breath, if that's what they've done before, breathing in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 3, out 3, in 4, out 4, in 5, out 5, in 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9. And then start again at 1. Breathing in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 3, out 3, up to 8. Then up to 7, then up to 6. No, in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, up to 5. Then 1 to 4, then 1 to 3, then up to 2, in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, and then in 1, out 1. And then you find you've done 45 breaths you've watched. You're probably all checking, did I make the right number? But that's one way of doing it. And at least you know whether you're already focused or asleep. Because sometimes I did that, and I caught myself in 32, out 32, in 33. Oops, I forgot to stop. Or in, where was I? But sometimes it's a little bit forceful. You want to play around with that? Fine. But it's much more helpful, I've found. Each one of us, we're missing some peace, some happiness, or whatever it is. And so when we breathe in, like say health, if you're really sick, or energy, if you're very tired, or peace, if you're very, very agitated. Imagine that, breathing in peace. And breathe out agitation. Or if it's something else, you're really unhealthy, breathing in health. And breathe out the sickness, whatever that sickness is. You can imagine it, the ache, the pain, just riding out on the breath, little by little. Breathing in peace, energy, comfort. Breathing out sickness. Breathing in freedom. Breathing out husband. Oops. Whatever you want to let go of. So, you choose yourself, but really get into it. Something which means something for you. Breathing in peace, breathing out, let go. And do that for 3 or 4 minutes. But you really got to get into it. Don't just say peace and let go. What does peace mean for you? What does health mean for you? And what does happiness mean for you? Breathing in happiness. Not just a word, but what it really means. And what you really want to let go of. Really put some focus onto that as it goes out. And it does energize you. Now, you only do those little aids to mindfulness of the breath at the beginning. It gets tiring after a while, and you don't really need them. After a while, your mind very easily focuses on the breath, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, without any problem. Just watching the breath. Just the same as you're watching your feet moving, right, left, right, left. What happens next? Natural, you see the whole of the breath from beginning to end. The first moment when the in-breath starts to arise, it starts to move the breath inside your body. And you can feel it as it fills up your body. And at the very end, when the body is full, then it fades away. It tapers away slowly. The in-breath is finished. And then there's always a pause before the out-breath begins. As the out-breath begins, it builds and builds to its maximum exhalation, and then it fades away. And there's another pause. And in order for you to get more interested, I'm going to give you a test. People like exams in Malaysia, believe it or not. Some people, at least, they know where they are. So, which is the longest? The gap between the in-breath and the out-breath? Or the gap between the out-breath and the in-breath? You've got to check it out first of all, not just one breath, many breaths, to find out for you which is the longest pause. All you're doing there is making it a bit interesting. Something to do, something to focus your attention on, a task to perform. It doesn't really mean anything, it's not necessary, but people get interested in such things. It makes it a little bit more likely you'll pay attention. So because of that, you get interested in the breath, and after a while you've got the full attention of the breath. And then it becomes delightful. Just like your walking meditation, I can do this all day, it's just so beautiful, just walking, it's interesting. Simply because you're becoming calm and peaceful. The mindfulness is strong enough, you can start to see delightful breath. And any of you who've heard my teachings before or been to my retreats know that once you get to the delightful breath or the delightful walking in walking meditation, you're off your way. You know, you may have a bit of interesting stuff come up, you can come and ask me the questions, but once you get to that stage of meditation, yeah, you can go off and you'll always have a wonderful time when you meditate. Not every time, but you know what happens, and the delightful breath, I call it pivot point. From there you can get into some incredibly beautiful stages of meditation, but just getting to that point, you can watch the breath, very comfortable, very peaceful. It's very important. Now when it comes to the how this actually happens, what you do in these stages of meditation, that is where I devised this 1,000-petal lotus sutta, not sutta, 1,000-petal lotus simile. So, a lotus, there's so many lotuses usually around these places. There's one behind me, quite likely, on the Buddha statues, but a lotus is up there. A lotus is a symbol of Buddhism. And even actually the Lotus computer company, I don't know whatever happened to it, but that was actually started by a Buddhist. But anyway, not where that went to. Even a Lotus sports car, it's supposed to be a Buddhist company a long time ago. But Buddhism and fast cars don't really mix. I like slow cars. Just no rush to get enlightened. Just take it easy. Anyway, the lotus over there, the lotus closes up at night time. And on the outside of the lotus, when it's closed up, you never think that inside that lotus is amazing, beautiful, fragrant petals. But when it's closed up at night time, in the morning, the sun rises. And the light and the warmth of the sun hit that outermost petal, and it opens up. And that lets the next layer of petals receive the light and warmth of the sun, and that opens up, allowing the second layer to receive the light and warmth of the sun so it can open up. They open up one after the other in turn. When what was on the outside receiving the light and warmth of the sun opens up, that allows the one inside of them to open up. And the deeper you go into that lotus, the more beautiful and fragrant and delicate are the petals. So that was a simile for meditation. You are the lotus. The warmth and light of the sun stands for the light is mindfulness, the warmth is kindness. When you shine mindfulness and kindness onto your body, you relax it. You relax it until aches and pains usually vanish, and you go inside the mind. Inside the body. That's the first layer of petals. The outermost layer of petals, the sheath, is always not so delightful. It can be old, cranky and fat. But inside even the fattest outermost petals of the lotus, there's these beautiful fragrant petals. So then you go to the mind. And then the first layer of petals in the mind is like time, past and future. You just with kindness and mindfulness, remember what I say, be kind to your past, be kind to your future. And inside the past and future is a beautiful present moment. You've got inside of time these great layer of petals called present moment awareness. That's as far as Eckhart Tolle went, but even that is beautiful. And inside the present moment, just being mindful and kind to now, inside of that, you find silence. There's nothing to say. There's no words to describe the peace and the joy of inside this moment and silent. Inside of that, you will find your breath. The layer of petals opens up, the natural breath. The reason why you're aware of your breath is because that's the main thing still moving. Everything else has shut down and vanished. And your breath. So you're in the layer of petals called the breath. You don't do anything, you're just mindful and kind, and it opens out to the full awareness of the breath, from beginning to end. It's not what you do, it's what happens. And that is even more delightful. The petals are getting really fragrant and more beautiful markings on them. And that opens up to the delightful breath. Again, or you're not doing anything, you're just being aware and being kind. And that opens up delightful breath, breathing in with so much joy and happiness, really content. And that opens up to the nimittas. Beautiful lights come up. And at this point I'll pause a little bit because people always get excited when I talk about nimittas. I can see their expression change. They pay a little bit more attention because you really want these nimittas. And so that sometimes the delightful breath is opening up and the nimitta, can you see it inside, but you can see the nimitta, but you can still see the breath. It's almost like, what is going to happen? Have you got enough mindfulness and kindness to open up the delightful breath totally and go inside to the nimitta? Or is the nimitta going to close up when you're going to stay with the delightful breath? It doesn't matter. Let the mind decide. But then, after a while, it will open up and to see the beautiful light. And then what happens? And these are really gorgeous petals. These just blow you away. Never seen such gorgeous petals inside of you. And when you experience something like that, you know that right now, inside of this thing watching me and listening to me, if you can only open it up, you see the amazing nimittas. The nimittas are already there inside of you. You just need to open them up. It's your mind, your citta. And the beautiful nimitta, and then that opens up into the first jhana. Now you're flying. And that opens up. Inside the first jhana is the second jhana. That opens up into the third. You go right inside, in all the way. You never go on to the next stage of meditation. You never abandon this to get something else. You go deeper in to where you already are. That's why we call this insight meditation, not on-site or ex-site. Always going in, seeing deeper into you. And so these happen naturally. Nevertheless, we can call it stages of meditation, just so you get some idea of where you are. And how do you proceed? You just keep being kind and aware, that's all. And don't move, don't go places. Stay where you are. Go deeper into this moment. And then see what happens. So that's the simile of the 1,000-petal lotus. The simile of the meditation by, on the breath, going deeper and deeper in. So now, if you would like just to stretch your legs a little bit for 5 minutes, and then we'll do the guided meditation up to 10:30. Sorry? Not your eyes. Say, eyes, you do whatever you want. If you want to move, fine. Off you go. And after I sit down by themselves. Just like a little kid. I want to leave home. I want to mess around. Okay, what do you want to do? Fine. Step right the place up. And I'm back in a few minutes. Get your eyes to what it needs to do. At least with the toilets just right behind, I can know when people are finished in the toilet. You can hear them. Okay, I think I made that mistake this morning. I said all the important people are here, and Datuk Victor hadn't come in yet. Big mistake. President of the BGF was another. Is he still president? Yeah. I've got to wait for him to come in, and then I can start. He's over there. He's staying somewhere else. Oh, you're tricking me. Okay. Very good. So he's very humble. But I also mentioned I'm very humble too. In fact, I'm the most humble monk. I always think, if you are humble, if you practice humility all your life, what's the point of being humble if people don't know about it? Flaunt your humility. Okay, so let's get into some nice meditation. I'll do the talking again, leading the meditation. So first of all, you close your eyes. Get your body nice and comfortable. You can lean it this way, lean it that way. A bit of stretching until it gets really nice. So with your eyes closed, we look at our body, mindfulness and kindness. So now, just how is your body now? How's your legs? Are they in a good position? The best time to move is always right at the beginning. But later on it's fine also. The best is the beginning, so get your legs just as best posture as you can. Really be careful and kind. And then my butt, making sure it's not too far forward, not too far back. My waist, good stretch helps. The rest of my back, my shoulders, learn how to regard them as a bunch of strings, and I let go of both ends of the string. So it gets loose and feels free. My hands, make sure they're comfortable. Really being aware and kind. Those two together can heal and relax your whole body. My throat and neck, be kind to it, not to cure it, because sometimes irritations or cough, you can't get rid of it. If you try to, it gets worse. So you just are with the sicknesses, the illnesses of your body. And just be kind. Awareness and kindness. Same as my face, aware and kind. Even my brain, kind to my brain. Feel your whole body aware and kind. And there may be some parts of your body which are still irritating or aching or even painful. You zoom in on that. And with kindness and awareness just to that small part of your body. Put all your awareness on that tiny area of your body which really does need some TLC, some tender loving care. You provide the kindness. May my knee be happy and well, free of suffering. May my throat relax, be at peace. So with practice, you can look at any part of your body and you can really relieve much of the irritation or pain. But not just for the moment, many moments, one after the other, of being kind, relaxing, being aware. You can feel your body relax. When the body does relax, you can go inside of it. It's not such a big hindrance anymore. You can go inside to that part of the mind we call time, to be able to let go of the past and the future. So now we come to the shopping bag mental exercise. You can imagine, visualize, because you've experienced this many times. Imagine you're holding two very heavy shopping bags, one in your left hand and the other in your right hand. And you've been carrying the past. You've been shopping in the past. And inside that bag you have so many of your memories. Most of them are unpleasant, painful, shameful, really hurtful memories of your past. And they are packed into that shopping bag in your left hand called the past. And you've been carrying that past around for way too long. That's why not just your imaginary arm and shoulder, but your real heart, your mind is tired. It aches because you've been carrying the burden of the past for way too long. And then you imaginary attention to your right hand shopping bag. In that bag, the words on the outside of the bag are F-U-T-U-R-E, your future. And in that bag you stuff as many of your fears, plans, worries, even hopes and dreams as well, into that right hand bag. That too is very heavy. That is why the worry about the future makes your heart very weak and your mind just very tired. Carrying around without rest the shopping bag of the future. And having established what those two shopping bags contain and felt how heavy they are, you then imagine yourself leaning to the left so you could lower the shopping bag in your left hand closer and closer to the ground. And when it touches the ground, all the weight, the burden of your past vanishes, allowing you to unclench your fist and move your hand away from that bag called your past. Straighten your back so your left hand and arm can hang loosely by your side, relaxing, recharging, re-energizing. Symbolically, you've let go of the bag containing your past. And that helps to let go of the real past. Then you imagine the shopping bag in your right hand, called the future. Again, there's so many fears, anxieties, dreams, plans and burdens about the future. Before you lower it, feel how heavy it is and how it tires you, wears you out. Imagine leaning to the right, lowering the shopping bag entertaining all your future fears and anxieties closer and closer to the floor. And when it meets the ground, all the weight vanishes. The burden is gone. You're still holding onto the handle. So you unloosen your grip. Move your hand away. Move your arm up to your side, straighten the back. You let go of the future. And then you allow the left arm to relax, recover, to regain its strength. And you gaze down from this little imaginary exercise. You gaze down at those two bags on the floor. No one is going to take them away. They're yours, your responsibility. You're just putting them down for a few minutes. So don't be afraid. And you are standing in this place, this magic place between the past and the future. It's what we call now the present moment. Standing between the past, having put it down, and the future, having let that go. And instead we're here. The only place we can relax, the only place we can prepare for our future, the present moment. So what's it like to be now? No past, no future. That will come later on. But spend a few moments, if not longer, on vacation from the past and the future, getting away from it all the past and all the future. You're actually here. But be kind to whatever you're experiencing now. The mindfulness and kindness towards the present moment makes the present moment interesting. Keeping with the kindness and the mindfulness. The present moment might become so fascinating that you don't need to say anything. You go into the silence with mindfulness and kindness. You go inside of the present moment where you'll find the silent mind. And don't disturb the silence. The silence is holy, it's sacred, it's beautiful. And it also re-energizes you. So it's as if your mind is listening to this moment rather than taking notes or giving a commentary. Just fully tasting, experiencing, fully knowing, without being disturbed by words and labels. Just being in the silence, being kind and being aware. And now see if you can notice your breathing. Not concerned on what part of the body you notice this, but just that you know you're breathing in, or you're breathing out, or you're in between. And imagine your breath like a good friend, not like a slave. You don't grab the breath. You very gently, kindly hold its hand as you walk through these moments together. If the breath is slow, it's its choice. If it's fast, let the breath decide. You're just its friend. Just being kind and being mindful. And as you're aware of the breath, if you need to count the breath, breathing in one, out one, give it a try. Or breathing in peace, breathe out, let go. As you focus deeper and deeper into the breath with awareness and kindness, you may be able to notice the very beginning of an in-breath. And watch the breath all the way to its end. Even seeing the space when the in-breath has been complete and the out-breath has yet to begin. And the out-breath is starting. And you're there, aware, mindfulness of all the feelings, automatic, but you can know them, of your breath going out. Not forced, but just natural, as you see the last piece of out-breath being exhaled from your body. And then there's that other pause, the space between the out-breath and the next in-breath. Which is longest for you? being aware and kind, and going always inside where you are right now. Experience the breath come in, go out. At peace, with kindness. What are you aware of right now? Be kind to it, don't judge. How do you feel now? Going inside. Using mindfulness and kindness. Now to count 3 more breaths. And the end of the 3rd breath, open your eyes. And don't forget, continue to breathe. And a little smile will be encouraging for me. Thank you. Okay. So, Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Excellent. Okay, so now to have either interviews or walking meditation or lying down meditation, or and at another hour we will have lunch meditation. It's more meditation all day. Okay, see ya.